So good morning, and welcome to another Dhamma talk at Newbury Buddhist Monastery. So I guess everyone knows who I am, so I just introduce myself quickly. So my name is Bhante Cunda, and I was born Malaysian and migrated to Australia when I was quite young. And when I was 33, I went to join Bodhinyana Monastery and ordained with Ajahn Brahm. So I've been practicing as a Buddhist for about maybe 20 years now. 10 years as a layperson, and about now 10 years, roughly 10 years as a monastic. Okay, so this will be my last talk staying at Newbury Buddhist Monastery. And this month, myself, Ajahn Chittapalo and Bhante Bodhidacha will be returning back to Bodhinyana Monastery. So it's been a very good stay this year. So I was quite glad and quite happy to be a part of the Newbury Buddhist Monastery community again. So it's been a very good stay, very productive. Okay. So today's Dhamma talk is just usually I talk about things that's happening around the world or within the monastery and how things are going. So this has been very interesting staying in the monastery and having a quiet place to practice and study and reflect. Then because all monastery now these days we're pretty well connected to the world by the internet, and also the good thing about having the internet is a good resource of getting information and also sharing the Dhamma teaching, the Buddhist teaching to a lot of our supporters and Buddhists and also non-Buddhists all over the world. But also we get a lot of access to news and to see what's happening in the world. So it's quite interesting, and one thing I realize sometimes getting a lot of information, especially from the news, we are conditioned by what's happening in the world. So this worldly condition is quite strong and very powerful. And sometimes when we look at news, and we might feel a bit, we say, upset, confused, how things are going. But sometimes I go back to my kuti and walk back to my kuti, watch the kangaroos, the birds, the forests, the nice serene environment, a quiet place in my kuti. And I realize all this worldly conditioning is quite powerful and a strong pull. It pulls the mind out into the world, into politics, and also in just a lot of confusion, and there's nothing much we can do. That's the way the world is. But sometimes the best thing we can do is to disconnect as much as possible from what's happening in the world. So that way we feel free, we feel happy, we feel at ease. If we don't disconnect from what's happening in the world, we can get really, really caught up. So this conditioning, worldly conditioning, is very powerful. And all human beings, if we are not fully enlightened, we are pulled by this conditioning. And we are pulled into this conditioning by our surrounding, our friends, by society, and especially with our news these days. And sometimes it can feel very uncertain, and it leads to fear, anxiety, worry, and also hopelessness, seeing the news, what's happening. So I was looking at the internet and I saw something quite funny that I haven't seen for a long time, and it was the symbol of the three monkey. So the first monkey, close, I see no evil, I see no evil. Then the second monkey, with hands in his ear, I hear no evil, I hear no evil. And the third monkey, with his hand in his mouth, I speak no evil, I speak no evil. And also I saw something added in on the internet, was a monkey with a with a tablet holding up I internet no evil internet no evil. So these things are quite funny, yeah, to reflect and see, yeah. But it's true around a lot of things that's happening in the world is through our senses, and it goes in the senses and it goes in our heart and our mind, and this willy condition is very powerful and quite strong, and if we're not careful, we can be lost in confusion. And because the Buddha say this, in Buddhist in the Dhamma practice, because of dukkha, there is suffering. So suffering arise from attachment. So when we attach things, and because of attachment, it will lead to suffering. And because of nature, everything is not permanent and always changing. So when things change, then we'll suffer if we attach too much to it. And anatta is because of the idea of a self or ego. Because as long as there's a self, and we are caught up with the things that's happening, and it's mine, right, my property, my suffering, my happiness. So this worldly condition is very strong in everyone. So the Buddha say this 8 worldly conditioning or winds these 4 are, these 8 are loss of happiness, fear of suffering, loss of fame, fear of being nobody, loss of praise, and fear of blame. Yep. And also last one is gain and loss, sometimes wealth and also families. Yep. So these 8 worldly conditioning for a enlightened person will blow them around to place. Yeah, so sometimes you see what's happening around the world. Yeah, I mean, one reason why I got drawn into the Buddhist practice was just trying to find some meaning and some hope to see, to get out of this confusion and chaos. But when I was younger, before I was Buddhist, I used to get caught up with just worldly things, and it actually made me very, very unhappy and depressed and quite miserable. It actually affected my health. So one time when I was, that's where I was staying, there was a lot of different temples and places where I used to visit. And when I used to visit one of the Buddhist temples, I will see the Buddhist image. And when I see the Buddhist image, you can see it. We have a beautiful Buddhist image here. The Buddhist image, when I see it, is a symbol of peace, inner happiness, contentment, freedom, and wisdom. And also the Buddha was a very compassionate and loving kindness person, also awakened and enlightened. So every time I see a Buddhist image, that reminds me of those qualities. And when I was a lay person, I told myself, wow, isn't it great if I can learn the Buddhist teaching and understand what the Buddha seen in his practice, in his awakening. So that's one reason all my Buddhist practice started, because of coming to a Buddhist temple and seeing a Buddhist image. And the Buddhist image always seemed very peaceful and serene. So that gave a lot of happiness in my heart. And also, the Buddha was a real person that existed 2,500 years ago. And he taught the Buddhist teaching that brought a lot of happiness to a lot of people, human and non-human, and also gods or devas. One thing with Buddhism, the concept of the self is just because the self is a core teaching of Buddhism, having the idea because of of a self is causing a lot of suffering within ourselves, relating with the world through our five senses, to the senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling. These five senses who condition to our behavior. This condition is very strong. So, due to like meditation, to understand our behavior, we understand why we are conditioned by these our feelings, our thoughts, and our memory. And also, because our behavior is also quite important too. Because if we behave unskillfully, will cause a lot of suffering to ourselves and also other people. So the Buddhist concept is quite interesting, and it's was quite new when I first learned about Buddhism, because I never learned all this before. I knew that they existed, but I was, due to my foolishness of this, my worldly conditioning, I lost touch of these inner spiritual qualities. And the Buddhist say, he says, the highest blessing, one of the, let's say a deva, a heavenly being, asked the Buddha, what is the highest blessing? And the Buddha didn't say like meditate or learn the Dhamma. He first say to associate with the wise and not to associate with fools. So what the Buddha meant by that, when a wise person will behave in a way that will bring happiness to oneself and other people, and a foolish person will bring suffering to oneself and other people. So when we associate with wise people, then we will become like them, and we learn to be happy. And also in the Sangha, it's very important, because Ananda, they asked the Buddha, associating with good monastic friends, is it half of the holy life? And the Buddha say no, it's the whole of the holy life. So when you associate with good monastic, with kind monastic, with wise monastic, that's well practiced in the Buddha Dhamma and in the Eightfold Path. You learn from them, you get inspired by them. So that's one reason why myself and the monks here, we always go back to Bodhinyana Monastery and be with the Sangha, especially with Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Api, and the other senior monks. Because when you associate with good practitioner, you learn and you get inspired by the example. It's quite a big difference staying in the monastery and being in the world, because sometimes we, as the 3 months vasa finish, we tend to be more busier, and we are more active, just doing monastic duties, getting things done in the monastery, doing our maintenance, getting ready for our fire season, and we can become quite active. And sometimes now the lockdown and restriction is lessened, so the monastic are going out to Bunnings and other places just to get supplies and maintenance for the buildings. So sometimes when you go out there, we can really see how the world, the busyness of the world, especially when the restriction is lifted. And it's quite busy out there, and you can see people running around a lot. So people are quite relieved, and they're quite happy to see that finally the restriction is getting less and less. And I think we have something like 7 or 8 days with no cases, no coronavirus cases. So you see people would have changed. But during lockdown, it's quite a lot of restraint. And for them, it's a lot of suffering just to be alone or being by yourself and in lockdown or isolation. But for Buddhist practitioner, we've always been in lockdown isolation, because we spend about maybe up to, we'll say between 16 to 20 hours by ourselves, sometimes even 24 hours by ourselves. So we are basically in lockdown all the time. So this is having the COVID period for the monastic. It's really good because we don't have massive crowd of supporters coming to the monastery to offer dana or lunch to the sangha. So we have a quiet time in the monastery. So for us, it's very peaceful and quite free from our responsibility and duties. Yeah. But I still remember during the Vasa, when we go back to do spend so much time sitting in our kuti, in a monk's hut, just do a lot of meditation and reflection, where we calm everything down, where we bring our awareness back in. Because when the core teaching or core practice of the Eightfold Path is basically meditation. And when we close our eye, calm our mind, and silent the mind, silent our thoughts, and basically also calm our feeling. Because if we get caught up with things external, our thoughts tends to move around everywhere like a monkey. And when we calm our thoughts, calm our emotion, then we develop that inner peace and happiness and contentment, and that's peace, happiness, and freedom. The more we stay inside, the more we still things down, still our mind, then in Buddhism we call this the outflowing of the mind, or cankers. They call cankers is that when a tree is oozing out liquid, so we call this cankers, just unwholesome or disgusting things that ooze out from the tree. So all these are basically our uncontrollable thoughts that arise from the mind and that flow out. So these are the outflowing of the mind. And if we can calm the mind down, make it calm and peaceful, and allow this outflowing not to arise in the mind, then after a while, a lot of peace, happiness, and freedom and bliss will arise naturally within the mind. So a mind is free from attachment, greed and hatred. It's a mind that's free from the worldly suffering. When the mind is calm and peaceful, there's a concept of anatta, a non-self. Because of the I and the self, it creates a lot of suffering within ourselves and other people. But if we can get deep into meditation and allow the self and the I to disappear, then a lot of peace, happiness, and bliss will arise in the mind. Because we are meditation, deep meditation, it's very hard to understand our attachment, our defilements, and also the self that's playing around. But all this conditioning and worldly conditioning is just our attachment. The more we let go, the more we calm our mind, the more happier and free we become. The more we can shut down our senses, our five senses, and allow the mind become still and peaceful. The more happier, the more free, and more content we are. It's quite interesting. I was looking at the internet, and sometimes you hear all these near-death experience where a person will have an accident, or they be in a hospital, and somehow their body dies, and their mind completely become calm and still. And they describe that the mind vanish, and the mind become very still and calm without thoughts and feelings. And they always describe a darkness and a light coming out at the end of the tunnel. And when they enter the light, they feel a lot of happiness, peace, and bliss, and indescribable peace and happiness. But sometimes when I listen to this description of near-death experience, I realized this is basically just deep meditation. When the body and mind, when the body vanish, our five senses start shut down, and the mind become very still. Yeah, so deep meditation is like when we're having a near-death experience, when we shut down our five senses and allow the body to vanish, and allow the mind to become calm and peaceful. And once things become very calm and peaceful, a lot of happiness and contentment and freedom arise in the mind. And when they arise, sometimes they arise in the form of a light, a bright light. But in Buddhism, we know this is just a reflection of the mind. It's when we see the mind as bright and radiant. So for us, for monastic and also Buddhist practitioner, we don't have to die to see our mind. Yep. I mean, the Buddha gave a lot of similes. One of the similes the Buddha gave was just similar to the lotus plant. So he say, for a Buddhist practitioner, or sometimes we need to practice in places where it's a bit difficult and where there's a bit of suffering. So when we are practicing alone in the forest or in our huts, our mind tends to go from past and future. And it's also like a storm, because our attachment is very strong within this world, and we have to learn to calm and still the mind. So when there's a lot of suffering, so suffering will lead to a lot of understanding. The more we calm the mind, the more we calm our senses, the more we still our mind, then we really realize that because the self is always having a hunger and attachment to go out into the world. When we go out in the world, then we are attached to things. And when we're attached to things, we're attached to suffering. So when we free ourselves from attachment and from the sense of I and self, then we understand wisdom will rise from seeing things very clearly, seeing things the way they are. So the simile of the lotus plant is when a lotus can only grow in mud. So the mud is a suffering in the world. So out of suffering, then this beautiful plant will grow a flower, and the flower will blossom into a beautiful lotus. So without suffering, the mind will not understand stuff. Without understand freedom, and the freedom from attachment. Because the world, the way the world is, people want to have the freedom of desire. But in Buddhism, it's the opposite. It's freedom from attachment. So sometimes at night, I look at the stars and staying by myself in the kuti at night. It's so peaceful. Staying in Newbury Buddhist Monastery and also Bodhinyana Monastery. One of the things I like doing, especially at night, when after meditation, is just look at the stars at night. And I always notice the darkest nights always bring out the brightest stars. So it's a bit like meditation. When it goes deep in meditation, when it goes into the darkness of meditation, the brightest stars or the brightest mind will always arise. Okay, so that's a quick Dhamma talk. I hope it was not too boring, because I'm not really a scholar monk. I don't read a lot of Pali. I do a lot of studies. I like to just practice and keep things simply. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left. So I invite anyone to have any questions they'll ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante Cunda. So far, we have received one question.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
How to deal with sense of loss which already stuck in my mind? I mean, about stories from past.
Yes.
It's coming back even when I'm truly trying to be okay or neutral with that. Me and my monkey noisy brain. Is it possible to find somehow solution for too much talkative mind, especially when I'm trying to cool down and meditate or focus on birth or on more and more on birth more and more coming when I'm ignoring is not too bad.
Okay. So a sense of loss is not loss. Is just a experience. I mean, sometimes I reflect in my life, and I think of all the things that I lost. Status, not doing the right thing. Maybe I should have done better. Maybe I should try harder. Lots of opportunities. If I get caught up with all this loss and stuff, it will eat into my heart, and sometimes it will stop me from sleeping. So I realized this is just an experience. So if we experience loss, it allows us to grow, because without loss and suffering, we will never understand why all this attachment is very painful. Because when I was working up in the mines, I basically lost having freedom to basically be with my friend, hang around with my family, enjoy going to parties, going to places I wished I would like to go and enjoy myself. But I realized all this attachment will bring a lot of suffering, because it's just my wanting. If I want things and I can't get it, then it will lead to a lot of suffering, inner suffering. But if I learn to accept things and learn to be by myself, I learn to accept all my miscoming and all my faults and all my mistakes, then I can be free. If I hold on to loss and miss opportunity, then it will eat into my heart, then I will never be free. You look at the world, look at the news, people are always striving for status, for respect, for honor and for gain, and for basically material wealth. And the more people strive for it, the more work, the more we say problem and drama there is. So if we can learn to develop those spiritual qualities in our heart of contentment, of forgiveness, and also for just letting things go. Things are always changing. So if we learn to live in this moment, live in the present moment, no matter what happens, even if things don't go right or go your way, we learn to accept it, because it is always an opportunity to learn and to understand. So when we learn and we understand, then we become wiser. So I mean, the more things I lost, I find that the more happy I am, because I learned that I can't hold on to things. Things are always changing. So things come and things go. Like when I ordained as a monastic in Bodhinyana Monastery, even when I was a trainee or an agarika, I have lost a lot of good friends, good Buddhists that came in to take part in the monastery, to try to become a monastic, and a lot of good practitioners. Basically, they cannot handle the training because their mind was driving them up the wall crazy because of sometimes their attachment to the world. So these really good Buddhists, some of them basically did not ordain, and also sometimes some really good monastic, good people that ordained as monastic, after a few years they basically disrobed and left the monastery. So sometimes when I think back on all these good people, good monastic that was in the monastery, and they basically did not make it. So sometimes it's a bit of a loss, but I reflect that things are always changing. It's always impermanent, and if I hold on to it in my heart, then basically I feel a bit sad and unhappy. So I realize this is just something that we have to reflect inside, and we have to accept, and we need to let things go and let karma unfold. Because what happened is other people's karma. We let it be. We can only take care of our own heart and our own karma and our own peace of mind. Okay, thank you.
So the next question, how sincerity should be developed?
Sincerity is very important because when you're sincere and you're genuine, even if you're right and wrong, it's not important. The most important thing is just to accept your own flaws. So when you do something right, then you accept it, and if you're praised, that's good. But when you do something wrong, you also admit it and accept it too, and also take the blame. So that way you become very truthful. Because sometimes the worst thing to do is always look for praise and avoid the blame. I mean, myself sometimes, I make so many mistakes too, and I don't try and hide it. If I make a mistake, I let my friends know, and I let my monastic friends know. So that way they can trust me. So if I try and wiggle away our things, I'll reflect it. After a while, I'm not truthful. So also be truthful and genuine. Because when I became a Buddhist, I found that I have more friends and people like me more. Because I was honest and genuine. And because of that, more people trusted me. Because they realized that I wasn't trying to cover things up or blame other people. Yep. So sometimes when you're truthful, when you go back, when you close your eye, when you meditate, there's no sense of worry and concern or regret. Because we realize we are human beings. We do make mistakes. Yep. And as long as we don't think that, we don't beat ourselves up because, it's my problem. I'm not good enough. I should have done better. I should have known better. I should have get involved with the right people, hang around the right people. I should have said that. I just said out to myself. And because of a sense of an I, it's causing a lot of suffering. So when you just see the self is just a process, then when you can remove the process of the self and go into stillness, then you realize, then you can be free. Because in Buddhism, as long as it's a self, there will always be a suffering. That's why when a fully awakened, enlightened being is a person that have no self, no ego, selflessness. And a person that don't have a self and an ego is not attached to the world. Is completely free and contented and completely, unburdened. Because a fully enlightened arahat doesn't have a self. It's just an empty shell. Because there's no more greed, hatred, and delusion in that being. So no matter what happened, it does not allow things to stick into that person because there's no one there. And if there's no person, there's no problem. And if you think there's a person, there's a lot of suffering. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bhante. The next question.
Oh, more questions.
Ooh. How was your meditation like when you were depressed? Was it calming or difficult at first before you calmed down?
Okay, so I meet for myself, I still have defilements, and if I am not careful and those defilements get into my heart and my feeling, then I can spend almost the whole night just thinking about it or beat myself over it. But if I can slowly let things go and slowly calm the thoughts and allow the equanimity, calm and peace to rise in my heart, then I realize because of the craziness of my thoughts, it's causing a lot of anxiety. And if I can't let things go, it will affect my health. So things like maybe my back might become a bit stiff, and when I meditate, I will feel in my body things become quite tense up in my shoulder, my back, and also maybe you can even feel in your stomach. You feel that slight anxiety, a sick feeling in your stomach. So we all have that feeling when things go wrong, when there's a lot of worry. You actually feel in your stomach a gut feeling. But when you can let go of these defilements in the mind, then you become free. Then when you become free, your body become light, tranquil and serene. Then you have nice dreams. You wake up with a peaceful mind. Like I've been talking to some Buddhist practitioners. I mean, for myself, I can talk about meditation, but some of my Buddhist friends and practitioners, they say that when they can let things go, they feel very happy and very peaceful. And meditation become like walk in the park. So when they have developed a lot of a mind of loving kindness and compassion and forgiveness, then when they close the eye and meditate, they find that the peace and the happiness and joy arise in the mind naturally, and that will lead to a bright, radiant mind. Because when the mind is free, and the mind becomes bright and radiant. And they say that when they close their eyes to sleep, they see that the mind is so bright and radiant, they cannot sleep at night. And when they go out and look at the stars, they don't see the stars because the mind is completely overwhelmed in immerse in happiness and joy and peace. So as for Buddhist practitioner, those qualities we must develop. So when we develop a pure mind, a pure heart, develop a Buddha nature, or those enlightenment qualities in our heart, then it arise to a happiness of a free mind. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bhante. This is from the same audience asking about loss.
Loss, yes.
Pretty long, okay?
Okay.
The source of problem is, on September, I lost my grandpa. Every single day, I could speak with him only on Skype.
Yes.
It's not the same. He was in Poland, I was in Dublin. So you miss a lot.
Yes.
I would never forget. Somehow I could be with him. I took my 2-year-old daughter. Husband was working. Grandpa died from metastatic cancer. Cancer attacked his intestine. They cut a lot 1 year before he died. After 1 year, when I came, I think referring to Dublin, cancer jumped on lungs, liver, etc. Cancer swallowed him. It wasn't the same person. He called me 4:30 a.m. I left my daughter. I took car and I run to him. I sit on the floor nearly his head. He was crazy, suffering. Finally, he suffocated. It broke me completely. He died at 5:05 a.m., half an hour from the moment when I came. I feel empty. I'm thinking like obsessed about him every single day. I'm meditating, putting light few times daily. I understand what happened clear, but I can't cut this full of pain pushing inside myself. I know I'm selfish. How to accept that? Suffering existing.
Yes. Sometimes a loss of someone very dear, especially a family member. Because we've been with our family for a very long time. So when we lose something very dear to us, there's always a sense of grieving in our heart. It's normal, because after a while, like just allow things to be, accept it, and make peace with it. Because the grieving process do take a while. Just time after time, it becomes less and less. Because I always remember, like when I do lose someone very dear to me, like it can be both my grandfather have passed away. My mom's dad passed away quite recently. The last time I went and visited my mum, I saw my mum. She was very happy. Then she was happy to see me. I went to my room. I unpacked my stuff. Then 1 hour later I came out and my mum was crying. So I straight away I realized that my grandfather just passed away, because my mum told me that my grandfather was sick from stomach cancer. So yeah, my grandfather was in his 90s. So sometimes when you lose someone very dear in our heart, it's quite normal to feel hurt, because we really miss that person. But it's okay, just allow things to be, and always try and think of all the good memories that you've been with that person. So when you think of all the good things, think of the time you've been together, and what a wonderful grandparents they are. So that way you always think of all the good things, because this is life. When there's birth, there's always death, and no one can escape from that. So that's why everything's impermanent. Being a human being, we have this great opportunity to enjoy life and to be with all our loved ones. But at the end of the day, we know our loved ones, they will depart. They will leave this world. So when we know that they will leave, we accept things for what they are. But what we can hold on to is the memories. Always hold on to the good memories of your grandparents, how they are, what a good, kind, quality person they are, and all the good memories. And then hopefully all the good memories will overcome all the unwholesome memories. So loss and sickness and death it's always a hard thing to deal with. But when we understand the law of karma, the law of impermanence, everything that's dear in our heart will depart us. So when we accept things for what they are, then we can make peace with it. Then we can let things go. But it does take time. So hopefully after a while, then you can slowly overcome those losses. It's very difficult in the beginning, but after time, things will slowly fade away, and just keep all the good memories. Okay, thank you.
That's all the questions we have. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, thank you. And so this is basically my last talk. So it's been very, very interesting coming to going to Newbury Buddhist Monastery and staying in this wonderful facility. So hopefully next year we will start the new project, the new lay center, sometime next year, middle of next year. So that'll be an exciting project. So Newbury Buddhist Monastery is growing every year. So that's great, having a monastery for the Buddhist Society of Victoria. Yep. So it's always been very interesting. During the COVID time, the lockdown, we don't get to see a lot of supporters. They don't come here. But during the lockdown period, you see the lay community does not come up to the monastery much. They do come up only once a while with the permission and permit from the government, just to check the buildings and do anything to do with planning or council requirement. So it's been very peaceful in Newbury Buddhist Monastery. So it's quite interesting. Also, we're giving all these live talks online, so hopefully it's a benefit to a lot of people out in the world. So it's been my pleasure giving this Dhamma talk, because when we find that when we give Dhamma talks, also it's a source of wisdom and understanding. So for us, we are learning at the same time as also our people that's listening to the Dhamma talk too. So the Buddha say there is 5 ways to develop wisdom. So I can't remember all of them, but I think one was meditation, one was wise reflection, one was much learning and study of the suttas, and one was listening to the Dhamma, and one was teaching the Dhamma. So when you teach the Dhamma, also develop wisdom within yourself. So it's also a learning process for myself. Okay, thank you. So have a nice day, and please take care and be safe. Thank you.
And Bhante Cunda, we do have some thank you messages to you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Thank you, Bhante Cunda. And thank you, Bhante, for your support during your stay at Newbury Buddhist Monastery.
Thank you. It's also my honor to support and service community. Also, also it's good a source of merit for me. Because sometimes for monastic, it's very hard for monastic to make merit. So one way of making merit for monastic is service, selfless service to the community. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And tomorrow night?
Yes. So tomorrow night I'll be giving the guided meditation at 7:30 p.m. Victoria time. Okay. Thank you. So so if you're free, you can join me for the guided meditation Monday night. Yeah. Okay. Take care.